Yo, how's it going, everybody? Coming at you live and direct from the back rooms. It's 2-card hand. I'm Miles. Oh, I guess he's on the other side because it's mirrored. This is Grissabria. Alright, yeah. Yeah, we both played Magic for, like, quite a long time leading up to this. I mean, I honestly, before I started playing Flesh and Blood, I didn't think I'd ever leave Magic. And then, you know, Magic 30 drama. Lots of, you know, the Jumpstart reprints tanking a bunch of value. Now they've done this Dominaria remastered. I mean, it's just I lost so much value. And it became a little bit disheartened, and then Jake was like, hey.
Hey, I got some Blitz decks, and we're going to play some games. And we fumbled our way through that. Really emphasis on the fumbled. We
oh my
were
God.
playing like...
We thought Go Again could stack.
Yeah, exactly. So he was playing Oldhim, I was playing Prism. And,
oh, the Prism.
You know, that was really painful for me. Attack, and, you know, we didn't realize to Go Again didn't stack. Oh,
it was really bad. Yeah. But, you know, definitely still gives me laughs to this day, and it's a really nice memory, so.
Yeah, and now when we play Prism into Oldhim, he dies, so it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, also, I kind of just realized the hoodie I'm wearing here, and the only word that you can see on it is cocaine. All right, so...
Wow, good job, bud.
Yeah, no, I'm killing the game. Yeah, and I definitely have very fond memories of that. The first weekend, just literally doing nothing. Like, I don't think we left the house that weekend. I think we only...
Table.
Yeah, we literally were glued to the table. We
left that because I went to buy a box of Aria and a box of Monarch. And that's how you got Winter's Will for the Oldhim.
Yeah, which I still have. Beautiful, beautiful. It's not even foil, but I still have it slabbed up. It's so good. And honestly is probably my single favorite card design in the entire game. I just, the force swing, the wording on it, that you can't just be using resources from an elemental card in order to do it. You have to pitch it actively to it, makes you play a very specific way. And the frostbite on hit with all of that.
It's the best end game weapon in the entire game, hands down.
Absolutely.
Because with Oldhim, you can continually just pitch to your weapon with your ice cards, and then either combo pitch ice and earth or your earth cards to his defense reaction ability and do something on each person's turn every turn without spending a single resource. And I think the only other hero that approaches that level of utilization fully of all of her resources is Dash. Shout out to you, Chad, when you played that pistol combo Dash in that UPF game, or that 3-player game that we played with Tommy. That still one of the most fun decks I've played against. That was great. Just being able to pitch a blue every turn to load up all your stuff and then go in for 4 times with a 4-attack pistol. Oh, that was beautiful.
Dash is one of my least favorite heroes to play against in the entire game. Hands down. It's infuriating.
It's not as bad as Kasai.
Honestly, I really, when I'm playing Kasai in Blitz, I'm playing Oldhim, and historically, I do pretty well in that matchup because of the level of disruption that I play. You know, all of the Frostbite really messes with Kasai. Stalagmite, if I play it at the right time, we're going to talk about this later. Playing things at the right time is so important. You can have really good cards, you can play them at the wrong time, they can entirely whiff, and you know, the win rate difference that you get for having the better equipment, you know, if you're against somebody, it doesn't just basically disappears, and you'll get beaten by a high skill player no matter what, right? But if I can block at the right time with Stalagmite, if I can pressure at the right time to hit those frostbites are pretty debilitating. And Mage Master Boots, one of the most underrated cards in the whole game. It's not only good for Toma Find All, it's good for So many things. And then also for tome. So if you have a deck that gives you a lot of versatility with it and you're playing a format like Blitz where everything is very poppy, everything happens very quick, all you need to be able to do is to be able to bolster your swings. Like just that much if you're playing a go tall deck. And that little difference is huge. It's game winning. So
I think it's kind of clear at this point that this game really drew us in really fast.
so
I
fast.
think I was hooked from the moment that I looked at the Blitz decks. Like I was a little bit like, I don't know how this is going to play. I didn't look at anything into the game until right before I went to spend the weekend at Taylor's last Easter. And yeah, that's when we were jamming all the games. And the first thing I realized was, holy shit, I can't get land flooded or like mana screwed or anything because all of my cards can be resources, or I can attack with them, or I can block with them. And at first, it gives you a little bit of choice paralysis because there's so many things that
Mm-hmm.
you can do. But once you kind of get a handle on what everything does, which I think LSS, Legend Story Studios, the creators of Flesh and Blood, did a really great job with their Ira Welcome deck, because that I looked through the cards, haven't actually played with it, but they have attack reactions, defense reactions. Her hero ability itself makes you pay attention to how many attacks you've played each turn. And I think Salt the Wound is in there. So
Yep.
it makes you go, oh, I need to have this many. It makes you think about the combat chain as well as Scar for a Scar,
Mm.
make you make potentially being able to put you into the mindset of I can still be winning with lower health. Because if you look at Bullander, you start at lower health, you want to be at lower health, so
Mm-hmm.
all of your attacks get their nice juicy bits.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And then you just kind of pop at the end, right?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And Bullander is the perfect example of how, compared to Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood is a lot more skill intensive and skill expressive.
Mm-hmm.
And like you alluded to earlier, the better player is almost always, not almost always, but is a lot more likely to win the game just
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many choices at every step of the way. What do I pitch? Do I remember what I pitched so when it comes back around, I'll have an idea of what's coming up,
Mm-hmm.
what to block with, how much to block, when to use my equipment. So you're just presented with so many choices. It really gives you a lot of room to improve and learn how to make the best choice and how to assess a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never at a point, or almost never, where you are completely screwed over. And if
Yeah.
you are at that point, it's usually because your opponent was able to pop off or do something crazy. Like when I was playing Pump and Dump Lexi versus Dash at the Armory before Christmas, and poor Chad, he had 3 BIOS updates in hand, and I hit him with a Frostlock turn 1.
Oh. Oh. Devastating.
Hey, that was one of those times when the other person didn't have a chance.
Right.
Oh, it felt good and bad at the same time. It was like sweet and spicy.
Dang. Dang. And yeah, sorry, just looking at the chat here, like I absolutely agree. If you've got two really skilled players, basically every time that I've played Oldhim v Kasai, if we're equally matched in skill, we're just fatiguing each other at the same time.
And I'm salty against warriors. I just don't like having to think super hard. And also, there was a person who played Kasai at the first few armories that I was at, and just like totally spiked it.
Mm.
So I just need to get over it. It's a fair matchup. She's not overpowered. I just need to suck it up.
Yeah, it's just all about learning the matchups. And like I
Yeah.
feel like that's another part where it's really skill expressive because not only do you need to know your play lines, your champion, your equipment, when and how it's best to use it, and how you're going to pitch your deck, which is already a lot. That's 4 different areas right there. That's already so much, you know.
Mhm.
But also you need to understand that all of those things change relational to who you're playing against, which is just also so complex because I mean, you know, in Magic or in other games, there's not really the same hard line delineation between classes. It's much more like Hearthstone than it is like other like paper card games, right? In that it has all of those different classes and all of these different heroes. But you've like it just having those different heroes gives a different flavor sometimes to the same card pool. Like you've got Old Him and Bravo, which have, you know, a bit of overlap, but they're totally different in a lot of their expressions.
They have tons of overlap, dude. Look at
Mm.
Crippling Crush compared to Oakenold. Both of them are a specialization that requires a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
With Crippling Crush, it's in the form of raw resources,
Mm-hmm.
costing 7. And does Oakenold cost? It costs 3,
It
right?
costs 3. It's so cheap.
Yeah, because the other two parts of it is they know you need to hold back 2 cards in hand if you're playing it from hand to fuse
Mm-hmm.
Earth and Ice.
But
So in a
also,
way,
in my
extreme.
opinion, it like really widens what you can do with the card because you got that in Arsenal, and then you've got to keep 2 cards that you're going to reveal for the fuse. So if you got that in Arsenal, you pitch 1, you got 3 cards in your hand, you reveal 2, you've still got all the resources from the 2 and a pump card in your hand, and it kind of
Oh,
forces you to guarantee that it's always so threatening. Because
so
I've hit red pummel on an Oakenold before that was fused, and I I peaked.
it, but that so you have those. You trade the reliability of Bravos because you build your deck with Bravo to have a lot of blues,
Hmm.
and you also run tectonic plating, so you're almost always able to play it. It's just ideally playing it that you have to worry about. Whereas Oakenold, when you play it, it's almost always fantastic when you are able to fuse it,
Mm.
but it's a little bit less reliable.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, well, you know what? Maybe I'll take that back a little bit. It's less reliable in the early game. You're never going to play it in the early game. You're never going to play it until second cycle. Like, just the odds of that happening are so slim.
Mm.
To get an ideal play on it, you really want to put it in your arsenal so you can have that threat from your hand to either make them overblock and really gain a big chunk of tempo by being way up in card advantage, you know, or
Yes, you also use it to pitch to Crown of Seeds, or have it in Arsenal and pitch with Crown of Seeds and CC, and then use that to set it up as well. Because then I
yeah.
don't necessarily see that you were setting it up.
Yeah, that's a big thing for CC. I only really play Old Him and Blitz, so I can only really speak to that personally. And
You helped me practice against Oldham when I was Kano last night, and that was
that's true.
just painful. He brought AB5.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? And I still lost a game. Yeah, that was nuts. That was nuts. I only have to bring AB5 because I'm so scared against that wizard, man. Um, but yeah, the real thing, like Oakenold was a card that really frustrated me when I started playing because I thought, well, it's, you know, I hadn't got the pitch cycle thing down yet. I hadn't really discovered the thematicism of Old Hymn's Earth and Ice, where he's, you know, weaving the energy of the earth back into itself. You know, he's using a lot of 2-block cards for his pitch ability. You know, you've got like So Tomorrow, you don't want to block with it, you want to use it later in the game. So it's basically the same as blocking with it, but you get it back, right? There's like a recycling kind of flavor to Old Him that he has. And I didn't realize that at first. And I didn't take any note of the flavor of Oak and Old either. Like the word is old, the second part of the fucking name of the card. And just in kind of like leaning into that flavor, I realized, oh, I'm supposed to play this at the end. This is not an early game card. I shouldn't sit here for the first 10 turns with it sitting in my arsenal being like, one turn I can play it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So kind of leaning into the flavor of things and starting to look more at the other aspects of the game to figure out how to play it as I was learning. Yeah. A lot of the game is just on when you play what and when things are designed to be played. And in the early game too, honestly, I block with it a lot because it blocks for 3 and I run So Tomorrow.
Well,
So I can always get it back.
That's a great point. Because I was thinking to other things like in Iceland, or like a lot of the time your Frost Hex, it just ends up being a blue pitch block 3.
Yep. It's one of the first things you sideboard out in a lot of matches. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. No,
But
exactly.
that was Oakenold was a really important, I think, early learning point for you in Flesh and Blood, like you were alluding to. Because in our first few play sessions, we'd have fun for a bit, but then, like we mentioned, it's very skill expressive, and
Mm-hmm.
because I've been playing the game longer,
Oh, you were
I
just kicking my ass. Yeah.
exactly. So it started to get a little bit less fun for you, I think, when it felt more one-sided. And
Hmm.
then I was like, "Oh, dude, it's really good," but it's like, "But I can't make it work."
Yeah. Yeah,
And then you
100%.
stopped it for a sec, and then when you came back, you were fusing it, and then you were like, "Dude, I get it." Like, highlighting how important it can be
Yeah.
to think of something and work on a problem and then just sleep it off and then come back to it the next day.
Yeah, because I was honestly, I was getting so frustrated. Like, I've been good at Magic for the better part of a decade. And to go to a
Yep.
game that I was just absolute ass at, it was so frustrating. But, you know, it was worth
Well,
it.
now we
It
go
was worth it.
50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, which is nice. It's nice. And dude, my win rate with that old him control blitz deck right now is like 70%,
Hey,
which is awesome. So I'm gonna be doing a Reinar and a old him video coming up soon. It's gonna be some of the next stuff that I'm working on for the channel. It's gonna
oh,
be
that's
exciting.
exciting.
Little sneak peek for our
Nice.
couple of viewers.
Nice compliment to the Tale of Two Lexis video that I'm working on.
Mm. Which I'm so excited for. We should steer away from talking about that because I don't want to just tease on things that we can't talk about. Voice crack.
Oh,
But yeah.
for-
Yeah. Yeah. Leaning into that, do you wanna talk about Lexi a little bit and why you like Lexi so much? I think that's a pretty good way to get into some of the rules talk in the game.
so she's one of my favorite heroes and one of the first ones that I picked up, and I'm really happy about that. She taught me a lot of important fundamentals and the way you can so she's a lightning hero and an ice hero. So you inherently are looking at her and going, "Oh, I have two distinct play styles I could use." You could
Mm,
go super wide. Well, you could go super wide with either, actually. Uh, Now that I think about it, you could go wide or tall builds. And when I say wide, I'm referring to a bunch of attacks on a turn. And when I say tall, I'm referring to one massive attack on a turn.
right. So like 5 versus Bravo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Or Lexi versus the Lexi, you know?
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha. Uh, that was so dumb. But she really teaches you a lot of important things about sequencing,
Hmm.
pitching, like you were talking about with Oakenold and setting things up and fusing. It's like that, except you're learning, okay, because all of her stuff most requires only one element for fusion in the
Hmm.
decks that I'm running. It's more, okay, how do I make sure that I have it in my hand? Or if I don't, how do I make the best out of this bad situation?
Hmm.
And you don't even need her legendary New Horizon to do some pretty ridiculous stuff. Like I've played two decks I can think of off the top of my head against you, and actually both of them at Armories, and they won the Armories that I played them at. A Snapshot Death Dealer Lexi
Hmm.
for Blitz,
Hmm.
which takes advantage of a pretty gross interaction between one of her cards, Snapshot,
Hmm.
an arrow that goes in for 4, 3, and 2, red, yellow, blue,
Hmm.
and lightning fusion costs 0, blocks 3, and on fusion, it allows you to use your bow again at instant speed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you use Death Dealer as your bow for the cost of one resource, you can put an arrow from your hand into your arsenal face up and
Draw a
draw a
card.
card
Hmm.
with go again.
Which is insane. It's so strong. Yeah. The first time I
It
saw that card, I was in a little bit of disbelief that they printed it, but I mean, it's
Azalea was
definitely balanced.
printed for, so
Mm.
that says something.
Hmm.
So
Yes,
using that, you can just draw a ton of cards and go in super wide.
it's true.
And
And it's so intimidating when you're going that wide with that many on hits because, so many things come in for 4. You can lightning press anything to make it hit. You run Electrify in the deck. It's nasty.
I don't want to get too much into the
It's
decking
nasty.
because these two Lexi decks are going to be the focus of a tale of two Lexis.
Hmm.
But just a brief overview because they're so good and
Yeah,
it's just so much fun. Yeah,
it's
and then
true.
that one I said you didn't need the legendary New Horizon. You can run it as a sideboard piece against certain decks and in certain matchups. And also important to note in Flesh and Blood, you pick your equipment and your weapon, and you do your sideboarding after you decide if you go first or second.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this plays into Lexi being great at teaching you good decision making with this deck in particular. If you're playing the full version with all the legendaries and stuff, some of the most important decisions will happen during sideboarding at the very beginning of the game, dependent on whether or not you go first or second.
It's true. It is possible to entirely lose matches just because you set your equipment incorrectly or because you bring the wrong equipment for the matchups that you're going to face at your armory.
Yep.
Yeah, if I didn't have that AB5 against you when I was playing, the Kano matchup with Oldhim, I mean, it would have just, even AB2, it would have been game over. You need, honestly, you really need 4 in that matchup. You really need AB4. So I've dedicated slots for when I come up against Wizards, just to making sure that I have that, and then I've got my core set.
Don't tell them, Taylor.
Oh, shush. It's fine. It's fine. You're going to run into a lot of Wizards. They're going to be out there. If you face one and you don't have the gear, this is just a general rule of thumb. Wizards are going to be out there. Runeblades are going to be out there.
Not run into a lot of Wizards, but when you do run into them, they're probably going to really like playing Wizard.
Yeah.
Except for Icelander, there's a lot of people who want to try playing Icelander because of the build Michael Hamilton popularized.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean, at least from what I know, at the armor events and the weeklies that we have around me, there are a handful of Wizards. So I'm definitely vigilant, because all it takes is one match. All it takes is one match against a Wizard that is a guaranteed loss if you're unprepared, and then it can be devastating. So.
Oh yeah, if somebody doesn't bring any arcane barrier, it almost feels bad because I know I'm going to win.
Yeah, there's just no question about it. Yeah.
I think it was Arsenal Pass. The dude from Arsenal Pass made a really excellent video going over the Wizard combo lines in CC with Aether Wildfire, and that's how I learned how to properly play Kano. If the opponent doesn't bring any AB, and you do your optimum combo where you don't have stupid extra resources, like if you have between 10 and 12 resources, you can go in guaranteed 38 damage with Aether Wildfire in Arsenal and Lessons in Lava in hand. Guaranteed 38.
That's huge. I didn't realize that it was that much damage. I mean, I know, when I get stuck in that situation playing against Kano and I can't block anymore when all the cards are gone from my hand and you pop Striders, it's one of the scariest feelings. I didn't realize that you could end up dealing that much damage, though. That is absolutely insane.
It's all in Aether Wildfire, which is also why it is banned in Blitz, because with half the life, it will be completely unfair for me to be able to threaten 38 damage on your turn or turn 0.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah. Ugh.
Which I'm totally fine with, because it's Kano grew older and learned more powerful magics, and that's why you can only play Aether Wildfire and Snapback and Stir the Aether Wind in CC. I'm just happy we have Storm Striders back in Blitz, so we can actually play Kano.
Okay, I have a quick period. I have a quick question. And just kind of a bit of spec, just a fun little something. We know James White puts his family members into the game, right?
No, I didn't know this.
Oh, like Dorinthia. You don't know the thing about Dorinthia?
Nay.
Oh, she's created in the image of his grandmother. It's a really sweet story. The name is her namesake. It's a really sweet story. I don't have the whole thing handy, so I won't go into it because I don't want to.
Give me goosebumps.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's incredible. We'll talk about that on the next podcast. I'll do a whole bit about it. We could do a segment. Do you think he puts himself in the game? Do you think he's in the game?
He's a Runeblade.
Is he? Has he said
it? Taylor, Miles. Have you seen? Okay, he's. I feel like I shouldn't even need to explain any of this. Obviously, he sees himself as a Runeblade. They are the most pushed class. There's more of them.
You see, hold on. You see. I don't know.
Wavy hair. His wavy hair.
It's always struck me, and I'm just gonna drag this image over here. I looked really close at Emirata's scolding, and I was like, damn, they have the same facial structure, and it's a card about, I don't know, looking frail, but his mind's gonna crush you. And I don't know. The first time I saw that, I was like, huh.
Do you think that's James White? Do you think he's?
I'm just gonna pull up a picture that I absolutely think that James White, this guy right here, this man right here, I absolutely think. I'm specking. One day we're gonna find out who he wrote himself in as.
He'll end up saying it one day. I'm so sure.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to it. We gotta have a running channel bet between us.
Ooh. I dig that. We have to have something. Oh, I see. Oh yeah, you might be right.
I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's I just wanted to insert a little non sequitur there. Give a little funny something to talk about. And move on to what we really like about Flesh and Blood. I mean, we both came from Magic. We both got a little bit tired of the kind of repetitive droning of Magic. Over time, it felt like, even in Flesh and Blood with the class system, they can do so much. You can play two different characters, and it can almost feel like a different game, because you're playing a totally different game as you're sequentially going through it, and you're using abilities that are completely different. Playing the Ranger feels honestly like a different card game, if you were to look at it from like a Magic player's perspective, in my opinion, than like playing Bravo, for example. You're doing completely different things. You're stacking Go Again in different ways. It's absolutely crazy.
And the same structure, and you're not even introducing extra zones. That's the best part. Is within this set of systems that James White has put together, you're able to express mechanics and flavor in a way that work together better than I've seen in any other card or board game that I've played.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just really feels like all of the best parts of Hearthstone and then all of the best parts of Magic put into get like one beautiful game, and they took all the worst parts out. The consistency that you can get. I mean, to never get land screwed, to never overdraw or underdraw on lands, for that not even to really be a possibility, and for the heroes themselves to intrinsically be designed around different structures of resources so that it almost comes with a guide on how to play the character so that you always have what you need, is just it's insane. It's insane.
And I'm just thinking about Kano now. Thinking about how different heroes feel so different to play. And the problem is, if I start thinking too much about Kano, I just start craving to play Kano.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we log off today, we'll play a few rounds. I'm
excited.
That's going to be good. Give a little... do I want to show the Blitz list for old him? Whatever. I'll cut it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm cutting it out. I'm sorry. You're not going to see it yet. It's top secret. But for anybody that's watching the stream...
I hate it. I love it, but I hate it.
It's been so much fun. The
Blitz one, right?
Yeah, the Blitz one for sure. Yeah. Honestly, I was just net decking the other time with the old him list, and then I just changed the equipment to mess with you on the Arcane Barrier. But
it didn't feel like you.
No, it really wasn't. No, I've been trying to make CC old him work the way I want it to. But the way I want it to work and the way that I like to play the character, just when you adapt it to the setting of CC, I'm 75% of the way there. But I don't think I have all the support that I need yet in order to make that strategy work, to be honest. And I think I might need to wait for another elemental set to come out in order to have that.
Feels.
Yeah, Levia. Yeah, absolutely. You absolute madman playing Levia.
Much fun though. Like, because when she does work, she really, really works.
It's true. When she pops off, she really does pop off.
the other 70% of the time, well, actually, let's be real. The other 40% of the time, I kill myself. The other 30%.
Yeah, the one downside of to Rangers in general, I feel like, is just you can just draw no arrows. You can just
Rangers,
draw.
or you can't do your blood debt.
Yeah, Levy as well, exactly. Yeah, it really is the same problem. And I gotta say, it doesn't feel worse losing a game to blood debt than it does feel winning a game by damage. It's all the same to me.
Yeah, especially if you're at an event and
oh yeah. Dude, if I'm at an event and I'm playing against somebody, like if somebody pulls up with Levia, I'm both reassured and a little bit spooked at the same time. Like I'm gonna be very cautious, but I'm not that worried.
If it's man stand, then you just you shit your pants and you are terrified. You are playing the world's best Levia.
Yeah, I would be terrified. I would be.
Shout out to him, by the way, because he's who got me interested. I think his channel is Manstand on YouTube. Great content. Seems like a really good dude, and yeah, just got me into playing Levia. Oh, so much fun!
So much fun. Yeah, great content. Very cool dude. 100%. What are some things about this game that drew you to it from Magic, and what are the things that have kept you there that really didn't hold with previous card games?
So one thing that I really loved about older Magic was the art, the varied art style, the kind of not quite grittiness, but not. It just had a really cohesive world built into it with its art, and nothing was jarring or took things out of place, and also it was just pleasing to look at. Whereas, like, I remember there was so I stopped playing Magic. I think the last block of the first Innistrad, because I just got really tired with the standard environment and then all the really high priced cards that you would have to buy to keep up with that.
Shout out my boy Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was another one of. Oh Lord. So then it just became commander with the boys.
Yeah.
One does.
I'm very romantic about that period of time. I was like, you guys are much older than me when I met you guys. I was like 14. Commander was just beginning. I had a mono black Shirei deck, Shizo's Caretaker that I had, and I'm almost actually tempted to build it again because it's 90% commons. But then I would have to own Magic cards, and I feel kind of bad about that.
Proxy them all.
Honestly, true.
So just make them on index cards. I'm not judge. Zero judge in Flesh and Blood. I'm not a judge in Magic. Yeah,
that's true. We did. Hey, congrats! Hey, pat, little round of applause. Little pat ourselves in the back.
We're a little round of applause to you too, sir.
Oh yeah, we both just became level 0 judges, and we're working on our level 1. So in the future, you guys can come to us with rule questions. It's definitely a big goal to be able to support communities that way. But yeah, the card pricing definitely a huge thing, and Commander was a huge appeal.
So after that Innistrad block, left Magic, but only play casually with like you or some other buddies that we had. Maybe some Commander, and then I came back and played a little bit more again when what was it, Dominaria? What was that set called? It was Dominaria, but it was the first time that they went back to Dominaria recently. I think it was like 2018, 2017, maybe. It was around the time of Magic 25, I'd say.
I was taking a break that year, so I don't know.
Anyway, I remember there's that red blue Jirai of the Gitu or something. And she was a temporal mage or whatever, and she was on a card art, and she was like, nice looking lady. But then I don't know, people got mad or some shit. And then they edited the card art to lower her bosom size and to cover her up. And when they did that, I was like, dude, it's a freaking card game. What? I'm confused.
The strangest redaction in card game history, perhaps. Yeah. Sorry, we made our art too attractive. We don't want you to be distracted while you're playing the game.
Exactly. Whereas you look at Flesh and Blood, and all of the cards,
Mm-hmm.
none of the art, none of it takes me out of like universe.
Mm-hmm. It's very immersive. Yeah.
Like, as in some Magic the Gathering cards, you look at it and you're like, this doesn't look like the character depicted on the art doesn't thematically fit with what's going on, or it doesn't mesh, and it just kind of makes you go, huh?
Mm.
Whereas I'm just looking at Swarming Gloomveil just to grab a random card from beside me,
Oh.
and I'm like, oh, dude, this chick looks badass and terrifying, and she already has 3 rune chants conjured up behind her. So
Mm-hmm.
that means I know that when this hits a hero, they cannot prevent arcane damage from sources you control this turn because the art is
It's literally in the art. Yeah. Yeah. And like I was talking to you about earlier, like the flavor of Flesh and Blood is so good and consistent that actually, like, I have learned how to play decks and how to build decks just by reading the lore and just by looking at the fluff of cards, which I absolutely love it.
Yeah, how you figured that out. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
the whole fencing thing with that? Because my mind was blown when you made that connection for me.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just going to respond to chat here real quick, and then I'll go into Dorinthia a little bit. Reminds me of when Blizzard removed all of the cleavage on the random portraits on the walls of buildings in Stormwind, Jakob says. And I was literally thinking that. I was literally thinking that, it's just ridiculous. It's like, it was part of the game. I get it, when you redact KKK art, when you have literal, fascist propaganda that your artists are putting on cards, I totally get it. I totally understand. Yeah, why would you ever commission that? Get that the hell out of here. But like, come on, you can't. Just this woman's to attract. Come on, it's ridiculous. It's kind of silly. I kind of get it, but it comes off. It's kind of laughable. With Dorinthia though, yeah, that was one of the ways that I figured out. She was one of the first heroes I ever played. That was one of the ways that I figured out to play her, was to kind of look past just the stats. And Dawnblade is a 2-handed weapon. Technically, I did Olympic fencing for a few years when I was younger. Really took to it, spent a lot of time doing it. And so as soon as I looked at Dorinthia and I realized, oh, she's not wielding a greatsword. She's not a 2-handed build in Skyrim, you know what I mean? You're not just chonking a big sword all the time. And her repose mechanic really represents this as well. It's a 2-handed sword because in fencing, you don't use anything in your other hand. You got to use this for balance. And this is all about setting up, and it's also a distraction at the same time, which just also kind of plays in really well to her whole play style, Don't look what the left hand's doing, just pay attention to the right hand, right? Yeah. Yeah, and so when you look at it that way, and you're just trying to find places to swish and swash to get the damage through, and stacking those counters, it makes the whole lens that you're playing the deck through a little bit more productive for sure, and kind of opens up a whole new window. And the same thing kind of happened to me with Rhinar. Like when I got the Classic Battles box, it comes with a little pamphlet. It's got a bunch of lore in it, and just going through the pamphlet and reading the story of Rhinar, because I loved him. I thought Dorinthia was cool, but I fell in love with Rhinar so hard. I am definitely overall a brute main. I could go off on that for hours. But looking through his story, I kind of didn't understand how to play him at first, and it seemed like, looking at the hero and looking at the card pool, I could look at it and see like, wow, there's a lot of potential here. This seems really strong, but I don't quite understand how it's strong yet. Reading that story, I mean, it talks about his attributes, him being, large for his size, so he hits hard, having thick skin, but like doing things in big bursts. It's all about exploding, right? He encounters in the forest a raiding party, a group of conquistadors that are coming through, and a lot of the story is just him being like, he makes the sand sketch plan, so he prepares, gets a couple of action points, makes a big slash swing, spends his first turn of that combat sequence taking care of a couple people, and then he just ends up being bombarded. But his skin's so thick, he's able to block all the damage. I'm having mad voice cracks here. One sec.
So he would have completely changed the plot of Pocahontas.
Yeah. Now there's a movie I'd watch. There's a movie I'd fucking watch. But yeah, he uses his thick skin to just negate all the damage, and he just waits until he gets the rage, the blood rush, the barraging beatdown. Gets the quadruple intimidate, and then just blows people up, gets that massacre, whatever it is. So it just showed me through reading the lore, actually, how to play the deck better. And the fact that you can do that with Flesh and Blood is just something about the game that just boggles my mind.
Well, yeah, you're a ranger. You got to load up the arrow into your arsenal. You got to knock it before you can fire it.
Yeah, 100%. But I feel like as well, if like looking through the lore, you could probably figure out what arrows to stack with each other. I mean, I feel like it's that intricate. You could probably tell what attacks are made to go with each other by reading, whatever fluff lore is published.
It goes with Blizzard Bolt. Goes with Chilling Ice Vein. Goes with Chilling Ice Vein. Goes with Rain.
Shock Charmers.
So that's when we've already pumped, and now we're going to dump. It's the dumping phase of the pump and dump.
100%.
One of Lexi's two tails, which are ironically tails from Arya.
It's true. They are.
Actually, it's not really ironic.
Well, if you say it is, then fuck everyone who disagrees. Fake news. It's ironic. Anyway, moving on.
But what if the person who disagrees is unattractive?
That's a real tough question. I'm going to leave that up to chat. I'm going to leave that up to the audience. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I am going to plead the fifth, and we're going to move right on because we've been doing this for about an hour now. We're going to move right on to our last little segment here. We're going to go to the Cool Kids Card Club.
Oh, that's us and anybody else who gleans knowledge and information.
It's true.
Once we speak.
It's true. This is going to be your segment. I'm sorry, I keep pointing the wrong way because it's mirrored. Grizz, this is going to be your segment, so if you'd like to explain to our loyal viewers what the Cool Kids Card Club is, and just give us your pick.
So the Cool Kids Card Club is cards for cool kids. I think that is pretty self-evident and explanatory, but...
All right, I'm going to leave. I'll be back. Oh, I think your mic cut out there, my friend.
Is it any better now?
Yeah, there we go. You're back.
Good. No, I want to take a look. Each of us can take a look at a card. Or more than one if we have a bunch of really cool ones that might play together that aren't really being played a lot in the meta. Probably not super expensive either. That might, zoop up your deck a bit, make it a little bit more fun, or give you something else to think about while you play. And then also, like I mentioned before, art in games is really important to me. And I think Flesh and Blood has some of the highest quality, or the highest quality art that I have seen, and the best aesthetic design. And I mean, they have some of the hard hitters from Magic the Gathering doing art for them, like Steve Argyle, Mark Poole. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. But each of us picking a card that we think has really cool art and just sharing it because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so to summarize, we're going to have a little segment, and during the card club, we're each going to pick, one or a couple of cards just to kind of delve into. And for the most part, they're going to be, kind of hipster picks. They're going to be cards that, you might not have heard of, that you might not be aware of, or that people just aren't really playing, and they're going to kind of be some speculation, and also like some fun build-arounds or whatever it is. But we're just going to try to, build our own library knowledge of cards and build yours at the same time. So also, if you have cards that you think are weird that nobody's playing that you want to be talked about, let me know. And we might go over a couple. So what do you got for us today?
Well, winner, chicken dinner, said by Aster. We have Bingo. It costs 1. It's a Majestic from Everfest. It pitches for 1. It goes in for 5, and it blocks for 3. And it also has a really cool on-hit effect. When it hits a hero, they reveal a card from their hand. If it's an attack action, then Bingo gets go again. If it's a non-attack, you draw a card. So this seems kind of innocuous at first, but I want to break down a little math thing. I think it really became popular and more well-known when Michael Hamilton spoke more about his Icelander build, Bullander, and his inclusion of cards like Wounded Bull, Scar for a Scar, and Fyendal's Fighting Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
turning Icelander essentially into a battle mage.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for this, if we take a look at Wounded Bull first, it costs. Okay, so I'm gonna do the little equation with it to break down the value of a card. And spoiler, it's probably going to be 8. So if we look at Wounded Bull, it costs 3 to play. So I'm writing down -3 on my notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Because, basic addition and subtraction, very complicated. I need for it to make sense.
All right, so for
So
the cost, we get a -1 point for every cost.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at the red version here. So
Yep.
we're going to give it a +1 because it pitches for 1. We're going to give it a +7 because it attacks for 7.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give it +3 because it defends for 3.
It defends for 2.
Oh, defense for 2. Pardon
Mhm.
me. There we go. That actually would make the math make sense. Huh,
Mhm.
That's perfect. And then we're going to give it +1 because it has an on hit.
Mhm.
So if we add this up, we get the magic value of 8.
Mhm.
So you can also look at a card Critical Strike. Costs 0, attacks for 4, blocks 3, pitches for 1. That adds up to 8. So it costs 3 to pitch or to play it, right? So
Mhm.
you're pitching 1 card for it, and assuming you have lower health than the opponent, you're going in for 8 damage, playing that card. So you're pitching 1 and playing 1, and dealing 8 damage.
Mhm.
And that gives you, like, if you break it down, each card is giving you 4 points of damage. So you're getting 2 0 for 4s.
Right. Right.
And if you want to go super math with the game, you can break that down and try and get as many 0 for 4s as you can a turn to get the most value. There's a really, really great guy on YouTube who went over this with a couple of other dudes who really broke down the formula. I'll find out their name and we'll put it in the description because super helpful, really awesome information, and they deserve more views.
Mm.
But bingo is really interesting because if we do that same math with it, it costs 1, so -1, pitches for 1, so +1, attacks for 5, +5, blocks for 3, +3, and there is an on hit that is +1. But we add that up and we get 9.
Ah, so it is an above rate card. It may be one of the only above rate cards, like strictly speaking.
The only other one I can think of off the top of my head is Command and Conquer. Who's
Oh, which
down
yeah is one of the best cards in the game. Yeah.
Yep. Except you -2 for the pitch, +6 for the attack.
Well, I'm gonna issue a call out right now. I'll tell you what. I got a full. If you can bring up a card that's above rate in the comment sections of the video or in the chat that we don't mention during this episode, I'll send you. I will actually mail you a foil playset of time snaps because I have.
Whoa.
That's my trademark. I know it's a big prize. I know it's a huge prize, but
The
yeah.
value.
The value is huge, dude. The value is like $8.
So just for fun, I just want to break down the next card I'm going to go into in terms of art that I think is really awesome
Mhm.
is a healing potion. But before we go into the art and why I think it's cool, let's just break it down because it's a lot different than the attack actions we've looked at, and the
Mhm.
formula still works for this as well.
Mhm.
So it costs 0, so we're not going to write anything for the cost. We get +3 because it pitches for 3. We gain 2 health for it, so we're going to go +2. It's a permanent, so it stays on the play field or the what's it called in this game? Is it in play? Is it
I think it's in
battlefield?
play. I don't think there's a battlefield. I haven't seen a battlefield.
Okay, well and then it stays in play between turns, so that gives it another +3. So that gives us 8.
Hmm. Hmm.
But anyway, I think it's really, really beautiful art because at first I kind of just glanced over it and I'm like, oh, blue potion, cool, whatever. But it was actually before we started recording, I was looking through the pile of cards and I was like, oh, wait, what's in this potion? And I looked inside,
It's a
and
little forest. Yeah.
it's a beautiful little forest, and then you get in the bottom left corner those little wisps of like purpley, pinky colors,
Mm-hmm.
those little flowers,
Mm-hmm.
and that just kind of like that feeling of being a little kid and looking at a snow globe or a little. You know how Nintendo can design some of their games and some of their levels where it's just like kind of this tiny little diorama, and it's just really just aw.
Mm-hmm.
It invokes that, and then even just the way the flask itself is clasped at the top,
Mm-hmm.
or like the ampule or whatever. Oh, it's just really thoughtful art that you have to look at to get.
100%. 100%. And I mean, a lot of the art that hit me that way too is when I was going through a lot of the Monarch stuff, you know, the angelic cards, the way that they represent the angels as like actual intimidating, frightening, proper biblical angels. I've looked at that stuff so much. Yeah, I'm a
My seraphim whose footfalls tinkle on the tufted floor.
oh. Yeah, but that's a good little delve into bingo as a card. I mean, did you where do you see bingo fitting right now that it's not being used? Do you see a home for it, or is there just really not a home for a card like this yet, and is that why a lot of people don't know about it?
Well, I think that it can fit really well into budget decks because when it comes to last time I looked, I think it was only a few bucks. Maybe it was either 3 or 8 on TCG Player. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that's a lot cheaper than an Enlightened Strike.
That's true.
And because it does have if you are running snaps as your leg piece,
Mm-hmm.
then you can make sure that it does have Go Again, and you're most likely either going to get to draw a card for and go in for 5 like you would with Enlightened Strike,
Mm-hmm.
and by losing a card, pitching it, or it will give itself Go Again, and you can save your snaps.
Right.
On the off
Right.
hand that they feel a reaction or an instant, it kind of sucks, but hey, you're going in for 5,
Mm-hmm.
and it does have over Enlightened Strike that you can overpitch for it. So I can pitch a blue to it, float 2 resources, and then use those 2 resources to do something with the Go Again, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to Enlightened Strike where I have to tuck a card.
Right. 100%. Yeah, it's a really good budget replacement for that, and it can actually accomplish a better effect. It sounds like.
And I actually started thinking about it as a cool card when I heard someone talk about it for Arachne, just because Arachne has a smaller card pool right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just a decent above rate, as we've seen with the math card.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
What about you, Miles? Do you got some cool cards for the cool kids?
I mean, I got a bit of a hipster pick. I got a little bit of a, you know, I've been hearing a lot of commotion about this on the Discord servers and in my subreddits. And I was, you know, at first I was like, why is everybody talking about Blue Snatch? Well, that seems like, I mean, I thought that would be a card that would like hardly see play. But hey, I mean, it turns out it's actually really good in 5. You know, having let me pull one up here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up a Blue Snatch so that the people can see what's going on. Snatch is a 0 for 2 generic attack action that says, and this one is blue that we're looking at, of course, so it pitches for 3. If Snatch hits, draw a card. It's pretty easy to block. Costs nothing, doesn't have Go Again. You know, it definitely didn't stand out to me as a new player when I first saw it. Of course, the red one coming in for 4, you know, at the cost of 0 is quite good. So that one definitely caught my mind, but I never really considered that these would be used. Though, having talked about it with a couple of people and looking at it myself, in 5, this is just insane. The 2 is exactly where you want your like go wide attacks to be. There are quite a few ways to give it Go Again. And,
because Tiger Strike Shuko, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. And so having it go in for 2, having it be an easy thing to give Go Again, and having the on-hit draw a card, well, what would you rather block? You don't know what's coming next. If they draw a card, it's a really bad thing. It's a really good way for those 5 players, and I think, you know, potentially for Benji at some point as well, or your Katsu. It's really just a good ninja include because of the kind of similarities in the kits. But I mean, yeah, what do you want to block? Do you want to block the snatch, or do you want to block the big ass draconic ninja attack that's coming in right after the snatch? I mean, I think a lot of the time people are going to block the blue snatch, and if they don't,
Chad in chat, who right before you said it was like blue snatch. Value on Benji.
Hey, I didn't even see that. Yeah, let's go. Exactly. And the pitch 3. So in the early game, you can just fuel your entire turn with this thing, which is absolutely insane. I mean, that's your Kodachis and another action that you can make. And then, if you have another free action that you have access to after the draw a card, I mean, you just get to keep going, right? Like, it's such a good engine. I'm speculating on it hard. I have a lot of them. It's never going to be worth a lot, but I think, it might eventually be a little bit of a desirable card, and also it turns out a lot of people need them, and I have a lot of them, so I'm just kind of like...
for $1.
Huh?
Buy them for $1, sell them for $1.
Yeah. I mean, I've just opened so many of them in boxes.
Yeah.
There's
also something else that you and I talked about was going in with something like a blue snatch.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will block with a piece of equipment for 2, or if I'm playing against you and your old him, you'll block with your polar blast or your so tomorrow, like you talked about.
Yeah.
And all Art of War, because that is an instant, and that is.
Exactly 100%. And like, that's part of it being so easy to go again. If you've got the snatch coming in and I block with my tectonic plating for exactly 2, and you already know you want to pop off that turn, you've just disguised your pop off turn behind a blue snatch, which is insane. And then you get to draw a card and you get the Art of War effects, and it's
that's just as scary to me as somebody bluffing a null turn by playing a barrage and beatdown against.
Exactly. Right. Yet again, it's knowing when to play what. That's a really important about this game. And if you're looking at, getting better at the game, or you're just learning the game, the most important thing is learning your matchups and learning what you're trying to do so you can understand when it's time to go in. That's I think the most important thing starting out, is just understanding the timing and starting to look for little gaps, little opportunities where you can say, I have, an inch, I'm going to take a mile now.
Also, and that, because you're saying that, if you're new, make sure you play at least one game with every hero. Thank you, Talishar, for making this super easy. You can just grab a net deck off FabDB or Fabrary and like grab a buddy, or just play a random game in a casual mode, and at least play 1 or 2 and understand how they work. Because if you understand how the opponent works, then you're going to, if you're playing Icelander, know when to drop a Frostbite to end their turn, know what to block, what to look out for. It all ties back to what you were saying, know your matchups, know what you need to do.
Exactly. And even if you're going into things and you don't understand all the matchups yet, knowing what you need to do, and like having an understanding that tempo is one of the most important things in the game. And tempo it's really easy to track. And once you like learn how to recognize, gaps in tempo, it's a huge spike. Like, it's a huge skill spike. You can do so much more. So realizing opportunities where, you can have a 2-card hand, and if you force your opponent, they can have no cards in hand at the end of their turn. If you can force them to block entirely with their hand, or if you're at the end of your turn and they've still got 4 cards in hand, and like that you're not going to be able to arsenal, it's not a bad idea to go in for an attack anyway, to goad them into blocking, so that when they attack on their turn, they have less resources to go at you with, or you just get free damage. I mean, and then you're cycling your hand back to you anyway. And as well, it's really important that you count like the full number of cards. Having a card in the opponent's arsenal is basically a 5th card in the hand. I don't count it as any difference unless they only have 1 card in hand. So
very good point.
Knowing those things, learning to recognize when they have 1 less card in hand than I do. If I can maintain that they always have 1 less card than I do, I will probably win, is really important. And it's something that it'll come to you really quickly and naturally with time. It's just got to be like a focus. It's just got to be a focus for sure. Of course, this isn't relevant when you're playing 5, because when you're playing 5, you're just like, whoa, here's all my attacks.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're playing, if you're like me and you like playing the thicker, more control-y, tankier characters, um, yeah, definitely a very important thing. I'm a tempo, value, mid-range kind of guy through and through. So
Complete side note, super hard tangent. They're making an animated Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. It's going to come out in 2024, and it's going to follow Aang and the gang as young adults. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Complete
that's
tangent.
actually awesome.
Go.
That's so cool. I hadn't heard about that. Thank you for dropping that.
No problem. Flesh and Blood news and reviews.
Oh yeah, news and reviews. Yeah, we'll have a movie review corner eventually.
Blue Snatch. I reviewed Bingo and Healing Potion. Do you have any cards that you really freaking love the art of?
That I really love the art of. I mean, there's a few.
The Art of War.
I think Arctic Incarceration is really cool. I think Winter's Bite is very neat.
Someone plays ice.
Yeah. Well, here, hold on. I'm just gonna show the people my desktop background here. I mean, it's literally Oldhim. So I definitely have a favorite flavor, but yeah, honestly, I think my favorite art in the whole game is the Pulse of Eisenloft art. It's gorgeous. The cityscape is amazing. The color is so well done. Like the technical aspects of the painting are awesome. Let me pull that up here so everybody can see it if they haven't.
Also, now I know blue raspberry is your favorite flavor. Wouldn't guess, but okay, it's like Oldhim.
Hey, I mean, I preferred Cool Ranch Doritos. I was always going to be an Ice Talent Tree player. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, it's still orange, so that's why your background is a little bit more on the warm side.
It's true. Pulse of Eisenloft. I'm just gonna pull this up here because this is just gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that. These cute little bison. Oh, I love these little bison. Look at these little guys. They don't know nothing. They don't pay rent. Head empty. Not a single thought. Just looking pretty. Just straight vibing. The texture on all of the ice. It's so well done. So well done.
Oh,
I feel bad that I don't know who drew this card.
I mean, it is in the bottom corner of it.
It is Millennia. Oh, I'm so sorry. Vasyukova. Yeah, Vasyukova. There we go. Never mind. Not sorry. I can pronounce words. Let's go.
Beautiful.
All right.
You can pronounce transliterated words. Oh.
Oh my. Oh.